But first, as I was just saying to Kevin, it came to my attention not that long ago, actually, probably a week or so ago, because it never occurred to me that it wouldn't be the case, that a paedophile, a convicted paedophile, providing they haven't sexually abused their own children, can still have parental rights over those children. So he may have raped the next door neighbour's child, same age, same gender child, but because they didn't sexually abuse their own children, they still get rights and also potentially visitation rights. The other clause, and there are clauses in this, I mean, there are clauses in this, right? That if the paedophile is not given a 4-year plus sentence, and we know that they don't get that sort of sentence, which they should, that they, again, can have parental rights. So they might get 3 years, 11 months, but no, they still get parental rights, even if they have raped their own child. So this to me seems to be so glaringly wrong that I wanted it to bring it to your attention, because I didn't know. And I guess these are the sort of horrors that you don't know until you need to know them, right? So the Victims and Courts Bill, which was aiming to change this under Harriet Harman, is at the committee stage in the House of Commons at the moment. So it's being read at the moment. And critics are saying, though, it doesn't go far enough, that those loopholes need to be closed, that there shouldn't be a minimum prison term, and if you're a paedophile, you are to be kept away from all children, including your own. That's what is wanted. People have spent, individual mothers have spent tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds taking their case through the family court because they didn't get any sort of legal assistance with this. That's another thing that is wholly wrong. Harriet Harman had tabled an amendment who would have, any child rapist would immediately and automatically be deprived of their parental rights. And that is what I imagined would happen, right? That's what we think would happen. But the wording of the draft bill released last week reads that it would only apply to offenders who have sexually abused their own child or have been sentenced to at least 4 years in prison. So it seems that nothing much is changing. I'll read you the quotes from the politicians later, but you can imagine what they're saying. We're doing the best to protect children, and we're doing our best to protect victims, whilst at the same time, blah, blah, blah. But why have these men got parental rights? And just how difficult is it to fight for your children if you're a mother and your husband, your partner, your ex-husband, has been sexually abusing children? Some of these, what you're about to hear, may be distressing. I just needed to put that warning out to you. It's not an easy topic, and I'm very, very grateful to the practical Mermaid, who has stepped forward to give her story, really, of what it's like to be in the most awful position you can possibly imagine as a mother. Good evening.
Hello, thank you for inviting me on the show.
Look, it's a topic, like I said, I mean, I'm a journalist, I read everything all the time. I like to think I'm fairly well informed, but this really blindsided me.
Yes, and I think you said it so well, that it's horrors that you don't know unless you're in that situation. And that's how I found myself about 6 years ago, which is the reason why I've set up my blog, The Practical Mermaid, because there was nowhere where I could go for information or support, and I really didn't know what to do or where to turn at all.
Talk me through when this nightmare started and how it started.
It started when my daughter, who was 4 at the time, disclosed some things to my mother, and my mother was uneasy about them. And my mother presented me with a piece of paper where she'd written them down because she knew they'd be shocking. I sent her out to get some cigarettes because I couldn't take it in. And from that moment, I'd been separated from both my daughter's father for about a year. And I believed it. I didn't really know what it was at the beginning. They didn't really say enough to be categorical about what it was. But I rang the NSPCC, and then it set the chain in motion. From the NSPCC, they report it to the police, and the police then go to the social workers. And in my naivety, I thought the police and social workers would listen to me and be on my side. But unbeknown to me, they have to look at that I might be the criminal. I might be making up these stories. I might be doing this to get back at my ex-husband. And it took 2 years in the family courts, and it cost over £150,000 in the family courts to prove that he had sexually abused them.
I mean, I can't even begin. I don't even want to try and put myself in your shoes. So you had a daughter who was 4. How old was the other daughter?
7.
4 and 7. And I've read a bit of some of your blog, and it was the 4-year-old that spoke first about this. But it again, what shocked me is that it's not enough for the children to have told their grandmother or you.
No.
Why?
It's hearsay. The children had to tell a police or social worker. And what happened was these children had been groomed for a year. It happened for a year. They'd been groomed for a year that they'd get in trouble with the police. He'd get in trouble with the police. So it was very brave that they came out in the first place. But according to law and criminal prosecution, the children have to tell police or social workers. But they didn't have a chance to build up a relationship with the police or social worker. It was, right, come to the police station. Did he do anything? No. Okay.
Of course. They're 4 and 7, right?
Yeah. My eldest daughter was so brave. She drew pictures to show me what happened, and she made them into a book, which I've still got up in the loft. And she made this book, and it was for any child that is going through this, so they know what to do. And the pictures were of sperm, his willy, of just, I won't even go, some of it's horrible. And I remember sending them to the police, and they said, will you just stop sending us these pictures? We can't do anything with them.
What?
And you're just left going, what do I do?
I mean, again, not to be too graphic, and I certainly don't want to trigger you, but she'd drawn images of blowjobs. I mean,
Yes.
if this is something that a child that age could not possibly know about unless she had been forced to go through that.
Exactly.
And so how did they disregard that?
They disregarded it, and I got called in to the council to meet with the head social worker, who said I was emotionally abusing the children, and they would turn the Section 7 report, which was investigating him, on me. And in fact, one social worker said to me, well, don't worry, sexual abuse doesn't kill children.
What?
Yeah.
And they wanted him to maintain contact.
Yes.
With his
So at this point, we'd instigated family court proceedings because of his parental rights, because nothing had been proven. The girls were forced to have weekly contact at a contact centre. My 7-year-old didn't want to go, but she had to go each week. She had to go to the door and tell the supervisor she didn't want to see him. And she was petrified.
I mean, this is all re-traumatising every single moment. I honestly thought that the police and the social worker, well, I know about social workers. I don't have much stick with social workers in my experience. I have to say. But you would imagine that they'd be completely on the side of the child, completely not wanting to re-traumatise a child. I mean, even if the children were being were lying, there would be a reason for that. So keep the children away from that man. It doesn't seem to be very difficult to work that out.
I know. And what astounded me was that they seemed to believe everything he told them. So even though there were these suspicions that he was a paedophile, he said that I was emotionally abusive and alcoholic. So I had to go to court with a liver function test to prove I wasn't an alcoholic. So it was just, you're in this nightmare, and you really feel like you're in a psychological thriller. You really do, because you think this is just escalating and I'm not getting out.
And how? So this was 6 years ago that these horrors started. You had to spend £150,000 of your own money to go through the family court. Why weren't you entitled to some support with that?
Because I was a homeowner.
Oh.
So yes, I had a career, I had savings, not £150,000,
Right.
and I still do owe. So yeah, because I was a homeowner, there was no legal aid.
So you had to sell your home, presumably, and
No, I managed to borrow a lot. So which I'm still paying back, but thankfully I could. There was a point that I was going to sell my house. But in fact, last year I had to go back into court for a 4-day, what they call a fact-finding hearing in the family court, which is the equivalent of a trial. And I represented myself because I didn't have the funds. At this point, it had been proven in the family court, and it was about contact, so it wasn't a kind of life and death situation. And I've been in court so many times, I just thought, I haven't got £40,000, and my children need the money more for their trauma therapy, for example.
And what is the situation now? I mean, was he convicted? Are you able to talk about that? No.
No, he wasn't convicted. And in fact, my eldest daughter saw him last week walking home from school. She saw him in a car, and it really triggered her. She's going through trauma therapy, which is, she's really suffering. The PTSD has really come out of her. And she saw him because he lives a mile away.
Why has he not been convicted?
Because there wasn't enough for the CPS. So balance of probability in the family court, yes, he's been found guilty, but it's not enough for a criminal conviction. So we can't get a restraining order. And they say to me, why is he not in prison? Why?
I mean, I mean, those poor girls, you know, and you're obviously a brilliant mum, but to have that done to them and then not to see justice, that has got to be, well, as they get older, that presumably will become more of an issue for them. And for you, it must be a complete, I want to say a very rude word, but a sort of a mind fudge, you know? I mean, it must be like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
Has he at least had his parental rights removed?
No. So when I went to court last year to stop access, so at that point I'd managed to stop the elder daughter seeing him, but my youngest was still seeing him. It had gone from weekly to monthly, but she was in this cycle of trauma, and she was struggling to study at school, concentration. So we went back to court. He instigated proceedings because he wanted more access. So we went back last year for the fact finding, and
I mean the nerve of him.
I know. And that's what you think, and that's the hard thing when you hear in court and you hear his barrister stand up and defend him endlessly.
Portray him as his
I managed last year with the help of Kafkas, who I have to say were brilliant, and all of the judges I met were brilliant. Once I got into the court system, whilst it's long and onerous, the Kafkas and the family court judges were amazing. And I think they must be used to seeing the failures of the police and the social workers. So last year, we managed to stop contact for the time being.
This is just unbelievable. I am so shocked. I mean, listen, what I really want to happen for you is that the Practical Mermaid is your blog. What I really want to happen is for this to become so public that people do, like me, start going, this is not good enough. This is simply not good enough. The moment anything like this is even suggested, those parental rights must be, as a matter of immediacy, be removed and then earned back.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what I want to happen and why I'm here.
Listen, look, we'll talk again. I think because I think this is such an important issue, and I'm in complete awe of you. I think you're incredible, and I think your girls are very, very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
And I really look forward to speaking to you again. That was the Practical Mermaid there. I mean, that just drives you to tears, doesn't it? Listen, I've got another guest, but I'm going to take a very quick break at this point. And then when we come back, we're going to talk to a journalist and survivors of abuse advocate. We're back in a second.